I'm Arletta Scott Williams. I'm the executive director here at ALCOSAN, and we welcome you to the redo, the remix of the 2023 annual public meeting. If by chance you joined us March 2nd, thank you. We appreciate that. I apologize for some technical difficulties we had that night. That's why we're here to do it again, because you need opportunity to hear clearly from us and provide your feedback and input. If for any reason you can't see us, you can't hear us, if you're in Zoom, please hit us up in the chat. We want to hear from you. Also, if you have comments or questions on what we're presenting, use the chat feature. I think those are the best ways to approach us today. We've got a lot in store. You're going to get updates on our clean water program. You're going to find out some modifications that we're suggesting since the last time you heard from us that are only going to make things better. Thanks for participating tonight. If you think there's somebody who should be seeing this and you don't think they're logged on, holler out to them right now. And if by chance they miss it, this will be posted to our website tomorrow. Thanks again. I am now going to turn things over to the person who is going to guide you in to the journey of this evening, our Director of Environmental Compliance, Michelle Bies. Let's hear it.
Thank you, Arletta. Again, my name is Michelle Bies. I am the Director of Environmental Compliance. And on behalf of the Board of Directors here at ALCOSAN and all of the employees, we welcome you to the 2023 annual public meeting. I also want to thank Derek for putting the show on today and putting everything together for us to do this presentation, and all of our presenters today who have prepared detailed presentations. A lot of work's been put into this evening, so appreciate you all. And I also want to give a thanks to our regulatory agencies, our Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, the EPA, and the Allegheny County Health Department for their journey they've been on with us. All of their time they spent reviewing our submittals, and their time is well valued. We have common goals for clean water and also to achieve the compliance with the Clean Water Act. So today, for those who don't know us, I'll just give you a brief description on who we are. We are the Allegheny County Sanitary Authority, ALCOSAN. We provide wastewater treatment for 83 communities in Allegheny County, including the city of Pittsburgh. We're situated on 59 acres on the north side of Pittsburgh. We operate a 250 million gallon per day treatment plant, and we operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're funded completely by our customers. So what we're here today to tell you, to talk about is the problem. So on a dry day, we have no issues with our conveyance and treatment system. On a wet day, it's a different story. The rain comes into the system and overflows into our waterways and streams. That's as little as 1/10 of an inch that causes that overflow. The result of that overflow is 9 billion gallons per year. So how do you manage 9 billion gallons of water? So the program that has been developed for decades under ALCOSAN's leadership has been built on four pillars. And those four pillars on how to manage that 9 billion gallons of overflow is pillars such as holding it. So you hold that water for treatment at a later date, to convey that water down to the treatment plant so that it can be treated. We also can, of course, treatment is always the option for sewage, and that is one of the main pillars. And then also to move it. How are we going to move that water down to the treatment plant? So today we're going to share with you the solution. The solution is ALCOSAN's Clean Water Plan. This Clean Water Plan was part of our consent decree, and it was approved in 2020. The first phase, which is called our interim wet weather plan, is to be completed by 2036. It's a $2 billion investment, and that $2 billion was a 2010 dollar. This plan will reduce the overflows in our region and improve the water quality. Again, that's a joint goal for all of us. And there includes all this work includes a lot of benefits for jobs in our region. So today's presentation will include 4 components of the Clean Water Plan: regionalization, grow source control, plant expansion, and our regional tunnel system. Regionalization is a partnership with our customer municipalities that we are planning to take over some of the trunk sewers so we can convey the sewage from the outlying municipalities down to the ALCOSAN conveyance system. Julia Spiker, the manager of regionalization, will bring us through that presentation today. Our next is grow source control. I say this and I mean it. I don't think I have to introduce Tim Prevost to today, but he is out in our communities educating our municipalities on what is grow and how we can partnership with our municipalities to hold that water or to remove it from our system. The next component is plant expansion. Jeff Ardros, the manager of capital programs, will carry us through our plant expansion. Jeff has some really cool pictures on how our treatment plant expanding from 250 million gallons per day to 480, and then beyond to 600 million gallons per day. And last but not least is our Director of Engineering and Construction, Kim Kennedy. She's going to lead us through our regional tunnel system. That tunnel system is now at a 30% and beyond in design. Last time we spoke to you about our tunnels, that we were in preliminary design. So we do have some updates, as Arletta shared, on that regional tunnel system, some revisions that will that's built into our consent decree that allows us to make those revisions as design gets enhanced. And Jeff Ardros will also share some minor modification with the plant expansion schedule. So with that, I want to introduce Julia Spiker. She's going to handle our regionalization component.
All right, thank you, Michelle, and thank you all at home for tuning in. We have a lot of exciting updates on the regionalization program. So Michelle mentioned that regionalization is one of the pillars of the Clean Water Plan that really involves the customer municipalities voluntarily electing to transfer some of their sewers from the municipality ownership, operation, and maintenance to ALCOSAN's ownership. Those sewers were identified through a lot of collaboration and communication with our stakeholders several years ago. We landed on any criteria being sewers that were 10 inches in diameter or larger and conveyed flow from more than one municipality. So when we looked at that criteria across our service area, that resulted in 265 miles of sewer that would be eligible for transfer. The goal of our consent decree is to make a good faith effort to transfer at least 200 miles. So the criteria works. We met that goal and exceeded it. Along those lines, there's 8 wet weather facilities. Those include pump stations to lift the flow so it can be properly conveyed to ALCOSAN for treatment, or equalization tanks, which are just large areas where you can hold water back during wet weather and then slowly release that to the system when it has a chance to recover to help reduce some of those sewer overflows and contribute to our goal of cleaner water quality. There's also 6,200 manholes along with those lines, and then 77 diversion structures. And those are simply locations where flow is directed either to relieve itself out of the system through an overflow or conveyed down to ALCOSAN for treatment. So as I mentioned, this is a voluntary program, but there's a lot of reasons why ALCOSAN is committed to this, as well as our customer municipalities. By taking the existing infrastructure we have, investing in it properly, we can leave this region with a system that is optimized in its hydraulics, is conveying more flow here. We also have the ability to make smarter investments of ratepayer dollars to come up with the projects that are really going to give us the highest return to meet those goals of the Clean Water Plan and ALCOSAN's goal of reducing those combined sewer overflows. It also removes some of the arbitrary barriers of municipalities where they're simply limited by what they can do with those boundaries. This program would allow the sewers to extend beyond that, and you can really look at what would be the right smart decision for each watershed. So what does regionalization look like? Our homes and businesses have laterals, and that's the first step on your journey down here to ALCOSAN. Those are typically privately owned, and they connect to a collector sewer, which is owned by the municipalities. Those collector sewers currently go into a trunk line, and those are the larger diameter sewers that are conveying flows from many directions. Those are the sewers that connect to our existing infrastructure, those regulators where we tip that flow down into our interceptors and get it here. It's those trunk sewers that we're really focusing in on under the regionalization program. ALCOSAN's system currently looks like this. So all of those orange lines you're seeing, those are our 92 miles of interceptor. With regionalization, this is what the new system would look like. It's a significant undertaking for the authority. Every one of those gray lines is one that we're working with our municipal partners to transfer to our ownership and operation. Over the past year, the municipalities and ALCOSAN have made tremendous progress moving forward to that goal. The different municipal boundaries you're seeing highlighted are those that have passed their resolution. And that's really the first step where those councils have said they want to move forward with the progress. So these are the locations where they've committed to moving forward with transfer. And we've also signed 16 transfer agreements. So those are the sewers that you see highlighted in orange. I'm very happy to announce that ALCOSAN has completed transfer of 10 miles of sewer, and we have many more that are moving through the process. So the program is set up to be equal in its requirements and conditions for transfer across all of our municipalities. However, each municipality is different in their wherewithal and financial capabilities in moving through the process. We want to make sure that any municipality that wants to transfer has been supported through that effort. So we have two different paths. One is where you looked at the defects that were identified through sewer inspections that began by ALCOSAN several years ago, where we inspected about 300 miles of sewers. Then we identified those critical defects where failure could be imminent and the municipality needed to address those prior to transfer. They can either go through the process of completing those repairs, sending us the repairs, and then moving forward with the transfer process, or we can negotiate and work together from the beginning on an appropriate cost for those repairs. And then ALCOSAN has an option where we would allow them to pay us back over a period of time, so it's more achievable for the municipalities that need that kind of support. Significant repairs have already been made. Typical defects that we found during that investigation could be holes in pipes or root infiltration, and the municipalities would go and make those repairs ahead of time and then send us documentation of those repairs. We also saw some locations where there's fractures or it could be a collapsed pipe. Those are really the ones we wanted to focus in on now. It will be ALCOSAN's responsibility to maintain the repairs to this condition post-transfer. It will also be our responsibility to keep that infrastructure investment and the integrity of the sewers up to our standards and level of service. And we're doing that through our operation and maintenance. Nate Carl's our manager of interceptor systems, and he oversees a crew of about 50 people with the right skill set, the right resources to mobilize and provide that service across the municipality, regardless of the type of the sewer, the size of the sewer, the location. So upon transfer, it would be our responsibility to operate and maintain the system that best supports ALCOSAN and our municipalities. With that, I'll turn it over to Tim Prevost to talk about GROW and our source control programs.
Thank you, Julia. Today, I'm going to share with you some progress that has been made with the green revitalization of our waterways program, GROW. GROW is the ALCOSAN's $100 million grant program, and the objective of the GROW program is to provide some incentive to our customer municipalities to do cost-effective source control projects throughout our service area. The program began in 2016. We are currently just about to begin our 8th cycle of this program. In the first 7 cycles, we have over $70 million in grant funding offered to our customer municipalities. And this was going towards 148 projects all throughout the ALCOSAN service area. Based on these projects, we have estimated that the overflow reduction will be roughly about 227 million gallons in a year. Currently, and I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of my portion of the presentation, 81 projects have been completed. Various projects that are eligible for GROW are green stormwater infrastructure, sewer separation, inflow and filtration reduction, direct stream inflow removal, and system optimization. What you see on this map are all the locations where ALCOSAN has a GROW project that has been awarded. The various symbols represent various types of projects. Green squares are green infrastructure, blue circles, I&I. You see the legend in the lower left-hand corner. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a Q code. And I can give the audience a little bit of time if they wish to scan this. And this Q code will take you straight to ALCOSAN's GROW site, where you can get more information about every project that you see on this map. Also, you'll be able to get some information on green stormwater infrastructure guidance. And this is guidance as open to anyone in the public and will help you identify where a good project could be located and the various steps that go into citing a green infrastructure project. And then you can also see a source control monitoring menu that we have put up on. Another resource ALCOSAN has provided to the public is controlling the source. Again, there's a Q code there. If you scan the Q code, this will take you straight to the controlling the source page on alcosan.org. And what you will find there is an executive summary, the entire report, all the appendices, but most importantly, an interactive online map, which will share with you overflow reduction efficiencies for the service area, a constraint analysis, which will share with the public what are the constructability impacts that go into citing a green infrastructure project. And then finally, potential project opportunities. I would like to share with the public some highlighted projects. There are some green projects, there are some sewer separation projects, and a stream inflow project that I'd like to share with you. The first I would like to share with the public is the borough of Aspinwall. Aspinwall is a perfect example of a municipality phasing GROW projects to achieve a much larger goal. Since our first cycle in 2016, Aspinwall has put forward 4 projects, and those projects are the Commercial Alley Green Infrastructure, Eastern Avenue Storm Separation, Center Avenue Storm Separation, Sewer Separation, and Western Avenue Sewer Separation. All in all, ALCOSAN made an investment of $1.6 million. The phasing of this started with the green infrastructure on Commercial. Then they moved to Eastern Avenue. The following year, Center Avenue, and then 2 years later, Western Avenue. Upon analyzing all 4 of these projects together, we're anticipating over 11 million gallons a year of overflow reduction. We have seen in our monitoring efforts a little more than 12 million gallons of overall water being removed from the system. So again, Aspinwall is a great example of a municipality phasing their GROW projects. The next project I would like to highlight is a project that is a good example of collaboration with ALCOSAN. And this is Homestead's Transforming 12th Avenue. This is a project that has been worked on for many, many years. Transforming 12th actually began as a school project for elementary school students at Barrett Elementary in the Steel Valley School District. This collaborative effort is between ALCOSAN, Homestead, and the Steel Valley School District. What we tried to do when we helped Homestead develop this project is to optimize the constructability and the construction scope to maximize ALCOSAN's investment in the program. ALCOSAN hired an engineering firm, and we worked with the municipality and the school district to develop the plan for Transforming 12th. And based on the work that we were able to do, we were able to provide this project an 85% match. What you see here is a layout of what the project is going to do for the municipality. Prior to this project, the playground area is asphalt, and the kids have to play on this asphalt. What we're going to do is we're going to switch it around to provide them with a park area that the school utilized as a playground and also parking for the teachers. Underneath the teacher parking is where some water storage tanks are going to be placed. And then that water will slowly make its way back into the combined sewer system instead of it all going in during a rainstorm all at once. The next projects I would like to share with you are from the city of Pittsburgh and PWSA. Now, currently, this map shows several projects throughout the city of Pittsburgh. I would like to focus on these 5 projects. These 5 projects have been completed. They have shared with ALCOSAN a final report showing the effectiveness that these projects were able to produce. They are at Hasten Avenue in the Sawmill Run area, Center and Heron in the Hill District, Hillcrest in Garfield, Melwood Avenue, I believe that is Polish Hill, and the I-579 Urban Open Space CAP project near PPG Place. The projected projects, all 5 of these projects are projected to reduce overflows by 3.5 million gallons a year. And ALCOSAN's investment in these projects was $1.6 million. This is the I-579 Urban Open Space CAP project. This project was an award-winning project that the green infrastructure that you see on here is very, very, lack of a better word, beautiful. This is a great example of green infrastructure being implemented with a large-scale urban project. These various projects from PWSA show the bioswales that they installed. All of these bioswales capture the water, slowly release it back into the PWSA combined sewer system. Some other projects not in the city of Pittsburgh I'd like to share with you are in Etna and Homestead. Etna's green streetscape phases 1, 2, and 3 are a wonderful example of how the municipality was able to utilize third-party funding to build these green infrastructure projects, as well as utilizing GROW funds. The Amity Street GSI project was a very good example of utilizing an existing park to pull in stormwater and utilize what they have with green infrastructure, and then slowly allow that flow to either infiltrate into the ground or have that flow slowly make its way back into the combined system. For these 2 projects, the ALCOSAN investment of $900,000 was estimated to reduce overflows 2 million gallons a year. The direct stream inflow project I'd like to share with you is the Ravine Street project in the borough of Sharpsburg. This was a partnership between ALCOSAN, PennDOT, Sharpsburg, O'Hara Township, and Shaler Township. Direct stream inflow projects are locations where a stream was actually getting into a combined sewer. And when you have a stream and all the debris, it has an impact on overflows, but also the debris that it brings along with it has an impact on the municipal collection system and ALCOSAN's interceptor. By removing the stream from the system, we were able to eliminate some maintenance issues, but also have a gigantic impact on overflows. This project alone was going to remove 45 million gallons a year of water coming into the sewer system, and also over 20 million gallons a year of overflow reduction. This project received the maximum 85% match that we could give. The construction is completed, and we are currently doing post-construction flow monitoring as we speak. So in summary, all the completed GROW projects that we have 81 of them. ALCOSAN's investment for those 81 projects has been $14.6 million. The projected municipal match for those projects is a little over $16 million. When we model these projects, we are estimating that there's over 400 million gallons of stormwater removal. But because of the post-construction monitoring, we were able to show that the stormwater removal was actually a little bit greater. Over 700 million gallons a year of stormwater was removed from our system. Based on that information, we can then run the models to determine what the overflow reduction is going to be. And for these 81 projects, for ALCOSAN's investment of $14 million, we were able to remove, we believe, 75 million gallons a year of overflow. That's it for GROW. I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Ardros for the wastewater treatment plant expansion.
Thanks, Tim. Good evening, everybody. I love being able to kick off our plant expansion tour today with this great image showing our construction in the foreground, but also the beautiful city of Pittsburgh in the background. Now, it's impossible to talk about the plant expansion program without showing an image like this. And why it's important to look at this image is this is our 59-acre plant that was alluded to at the beginning of our presentation. And it highlights one of the biggest challenges we have with our plant expansion program, and that is availability of space. You can see at the top of your screen, we have the Ohio River constricting us. At the bottom of your screen, we have the Norfolk Southern Railroad constricting us. And on the left of your screen, we have industrial buildings constricting us. We really have nowhere to go, nowhere to expand. So somehow we have to implement this program while getting creative and basically hitting our major milestones, which are shown at the bottom of your slide. Now, the bottom of your slide is essentially what the plant expansion program can boil down to. Currently, our plant has a peak treatment capacity of 250 million gallons per day. By the end of 2025, our first major milestone, we will be increasing our plant's secondary treatment capacity to 295 million gallons per day, and our wet weather treatment capacity to 480 million gallons per day. And if you are asking yourself what wet weather treatment is, what that is flows that will receive primary treatment at our primary sedimentation tanks and disinfection before being discharged to the Ohio River. Now, our second major milestone that we will be attaining by the end of 2029 will be increasing that wet weather treatment capacity from 480 million gallons per day to 600 million gallons per day. So if you've been to an open house recently, or if you attended last year's annual public meeting, these have been the two projects that have been a focal point, our north end and our east headworks. So we'll start with our annual progress updates with the north end. And before I move on from this slide, I think it's important to highlight that image in the background. That is the current Google Earth aerial image. So if you search for ALCOSAN on Google Earth, you get an actual image of our construction. It's great. It's getting to see that opportunity where we are making that significant progress. And now it's highlighted on Google Earth if you want to go take a look at it. But remember that image as I transition to the next slide. Now, this is a future rendering of what the north end plant expansion will look like at the end. It looks very similar to that image we just saw on the last slide. We are really making progress. We're starting to see some of these process tanks take shape. Now, what else is important to highlight on this slide is that the north end plant expansion really consists of two aspects of the clean water plan that were originally envisioned as two separate projects. First is our new final disinfection tank. Now, that final disinfection tank had an interim milestone of end of 2023 to go live. Now, with that final disinfection tank, there is not an increase in plant capacity. It is just a relocation of our plant's outfall. The two new final clarifiers, the two circular tanks that you see on the left of your screen, that was the second project. Now, that project does bring about an increase in our secondary treatment capacity to 295 million gallons per day, but that has an end of 2025 major milestone. So ALCOSAN has proposed a minor modification to align the final disinfection tank interim milestone with the major milestone at the end of 2025. Now, why this makes a lot of sense can be seen on this next slide. The image on the left is what we shared with you last year at the public meeting. We were really highlighting the river wall. That was our big crowning achievement. We had just finished it in November of 2021. Now, the image on the right is where we are at as of the beginning of this year. As I've stated, we're starting to see these concrete process tanks take shape. You can see the disinfection tank in the distance. You can see the eastern of the two clarifier. The shell is actually complete. And in this image, you can see it going through watertight testing. We're making significant progress on these tanks. Now, why the aligning of these milestones is important is that ALCOSAN, because this all got rolled into one project, rightfully so, because it really is a much more constructible project being one, but it also allows traffic to be maintained throughout this construction site throughout the duration of the project, which is important. So as you can see, that disinfection tank may be lagging a bit behind, but the clarifier is moving way ahead of schedule. Now we've talked about the north end. Next up, we'll talk about the east headworks, and we'll start with a time lapse that will begin at the end of 2021 when we broke ground. Now our hole is about 20 feet deep here at this point, and you're starting to see the foundation auger cast piles at the base. You see our tower crane in the distance, and you'll see another tower crane showing up on the right side of your screen. Finally, you'll start seeing rebar and then concrete being poured, which takes us to about today. Now, if you came out to open house last year, the plant expansion booth was actually planted right at that stop sign at the bottom of your screen. So if you came back to see us, you got an opportunity to see this active construction site live. And you also got a chance to try on an ALCOSAN vest and a hard hat and take a photo in front of the site, but also that awesome tower crane behind it. And finally, this is a rendering of what the building will look like when it's completed at the end of 2025. So we've talked about these two projects, and note that the text at the top has now changed. These are projects associated with that major milestone of 2025. These are our flagship plant expansion projects that are going to implement these additional peak capacities that we've talked about. But we're not done. We still have another one to come that will be breaking ground later this year called our CSO bypass and disinfection project. Now we have contractors on board at this point that were on board as of the end of 2022. As I said, we'll be breaking ground later this summer, hopefully by June, July timeframe. And we'll have some images to share at future annual public meetings or open houses. Right now, we haven't broken ground, so there's nothing to share, but we look forward to those opportunities moving forward. Now, note the text at the top has changed again. Now we are talking about the flagship plant expansion projects associated with that end of 2029 major milestone that will increase our wet weather treatment capacity to 600 million gallons per day. There are two big ones. Our wet weather pump station, which you see at the top of the screen, and our primary sedimentation tanks E4 and E5. So we'll start with our primary sed tanks. Now, the E4, E5, that's just ALCOSAN identification. Essentially, what that is we have two new primary tanks to increase our total tanks from 9 to 11. And if you've got a keen eye, you've noticed that in the image behind, there are actually two buildings that are in the way of where these primary tanks will be: the laboratory and the industrial waste building. Now, this goes back to one of the first things I said. One of the biggest challenges that we have with the plant expansion is lack of available space, but we have to get creative at times. And this is an opportunity where we took one. So the other area that's highlighted on this image is a surface parking lot. We were able to consolidate that surface parking lot into a smaller footprint by first building a parking garage. So we have the same amount of parking in a smaller footprint. What that did is it opened up a little bit of space. And with that extra space, we're going to be building a new building called the Environmental Compliance Facility. This will have a lab in it, as well as office space for the staff that sits in the laboratory and the industrial waste building. That staff will be relocated to this new facility, which will allow us to have step 3 of the phase in preparation for the primary sed tanks, demolishing the laboratory and the industrial waste building. But the annual public meeting, we want to highlight what we've done in the last year. So we'll focus on the first 2 steps. The parking garage is now complete. We opened it as of November 2022. And if you came to open house, you walked right by it. It's right next to the entrance. So that was really the first opportunity for the public to see the parking garage. The other thing to highlight in the image on the right, to the right side of the image, is that is our active environmental compliance facility site. We did break ground on that in November of 2022 as well. So we're seeing some progress over there. All of this is in preparation for our primary sedimentation tanks E4 and E5 project. So I mentioned we have 2 big flagship projects associated with this 2029 major milestone. They are dependent on each other to achieve this wet weather treatment capacity of 600 million gallons per day. And I will explain why. First, our primary sedimentation tanks project. It currently has an interim milestone at the end of 2027. Now, with that, we will be able to increase our plant's primary treatment capacity from 480 million gallons per day to 600 million gallons per day. However, our plant isn't going to be able to convey that flow to the primary tanks. That can't occur until the end of 2029 and that major milestone where the wet weather pump station will go live. So because of this, ALCOSAN is also proposing a minor modification to align the primary sed tanks E4 and E5 interim milestone with the major milestone at the end of 2029 to align it with the wet weather pump station, which, as I stated, these are dependent projects on each other. So the last thing I'll leave you with is a little bit of discussion about our wet weather pump station. If you came to open house last year, you saw this image on the right. That was our first opportunity to share a rendering of what this wet weather pump station is going to look like. We're still several years from building this. But if you've been to an ALCOSAN tour ever, or to our open house tours, you likely know that we're big flag wavers for our main pump station, which is shown on the right of the image on the left on your screen, is the lowest point in Allegheny County. It's about 100 feet deep. Well, when this wet weather pump station is built, this will be 150 feet deep. It will reestablish the low point of Allegheny County. So in addition to it being 150 feet deep, it's also going to be approximately 110 feet in diameter. It is going to be an impressive underground structure, and we're looking forward to this opportunity. The other thing to highlight about this project is that this is the touch point between two of the pillars of our clean water plan. The plant expansion program, which I've walked you through, but it's also the touch point for the regional tunnel system, which Kim Kennedy will be talking about next.
All right. Last but not least, the regional tunnel system. So I think Julia did a wonderful job of explaining sort of our existing infrastructure, but this is a nice diagram to sort of mirror it up with what the new regional tunnel system will look like. So we've got our existing combined sewer system that now comes over to a regulator and drops down into our existing deep tunnel interceptor. The issue is during periods of wet weather, overflows go out those outfalls and into our rivers and streams. So the concept is with regional tunnel system is to divert the flow from going out the outfalls into our rivers and streams into a new regulator that will then go into a consolidation sewer and into our new drop shaft. So we already have an existing deep tunnel interceptor. What we'll be doing now is building a wet weather tunnel system 50 feet below our existing deep tunnel interceptor to capture and convey those sewer overflows down here to the treatment plant for treatment. And we'll have the capacity available at that time based on the work that's already being done with the plant expansion. So our main legs of the tunnel are going to be 18 feet in diameter. And then we've got two river crossing tunnels that will each be 14 feet in diameter. And these are just some nice photos from cities that have already done the work to show you sort of what that interior will look like after the tunnels are built. And here are some images of those words I was talking about. These are the near surface components of the regional tunnel system. So on the left, that's what a regulator will look like. And those regulators will vary in size depending on how much flow they're anticipated to capture. Then the consolidation sewers, that's like a 30 to 40 foot deep consolidation sewer that'll take the flow from the new regulator over to the drop shaft. And then on the far right, that is your typical drop shaft construction. But I think what's most important is this photo at the bottom, which is what happens after. All of this infrastructure will be buried below grade. The most of it, the bulk of it will be 150 feet deep. And then there's just a handful of near surface facilities that will capture those overflows and divert them through a drop shaft into the new regional tunnel system. But nothing other than a few very minor penthouses for some access for gate control will be at the surface. This is underground buried infrastructure. So here is the proposed regional tunnel system. We are not going to build this all in one contract. This has to be broken into phases. So what's under design right now is what's shown in the green. That's the Ohio River Tunnel. And what's shown in kind of like the bullseye with the red circle, that's our wastewater treatment plant. So that'll be the end of where everything goes down here to get treated. Next, the blue segment is the Allegheny River Tunnel. And then in orange is the Monongahela River Tunnel. So we will do this work in segments. Now, one thing that has changed slightly from the preliminary planning and basis of design report is a slight adjustment to the alignment. The Ohio River Tunnel was just shortened slightly, and the Allegheny River Tunnel was lengthened by that same amount. However, what I would like to point out is that the length is still the same, and it is more than the initial concept, and the volume of storage and conveyance is still greater than the initial concept. So we're still delivering above and beyond what the original investment is. It's just that we're tweaking things as we've moved to final design, and we're working through the details in reality of some of the engineering decisions that have to be made. So here's a zoom in. It's the exact same thing that was shown on the bigger image, but now we're just looking at the Ohio River Tunnel. And here I want to point out that everything that is green and dashed is 150 feet deep. So you can see in the red circles are the regulators, and the lime green circles are the drop shafts. We have 7 of those near surface facilities in the Ohio River Tunnel, 2 over in the Keys Rocks and 5 in the city. And then we have the access shaft that will be where the tunnel boring machine is launched from. Those are the only surface disruptions that will be part of this pretty major construction project. So this is the alignment as it stands, moving quickly into the 60% design. A couple other things that have been updated as part of this advanced design that we're doing of the Ohio River Tunnel is that we were able to remove the connection for the 040 shed. We were able to do additional or further dye testing and investigation and some advanced modeling to say that we no longer have to build that connection into the 040 regulator, and that the overflows will be eliminated by a gate adjustment and then the increased capacity down here at the wastewater treatment plant. And then the second minor modification is the elimination of the connection to our existing Chartiers Creek interceptor over on the other side of the Ohio River in the Keys Rocks. So something I would like to point out, as you can see very well in this image, is that where the near surface facilities are located are really mirrored up with our existing infrastructure. You can see our existing infrastructure in this image is shown in red, and then the proposed infrastructure is shown in green. Again, everything that is dashed is 150 feet deep below grade, and then you see the drop shaft and regulators at the near surface. But anywhere you see our proposed work, it's where our existing infrastructure exists. It has to be there because that's where we're capturing the overflow that's going to the river and stream and diverting it into the new regional tunnel system. So here we are. This is sort of just an image of the process of just the Ohio River Tunnel. At the beginning of 2021, we brought on a tunnel program manager. And then at the end of 2021, we awarded the Ohio River Tunnel final design contract. At the beginning of, throughout 2022, we worked on the Act 537 special study that incorporates the planning for all 3 tunnel segments. And then right at the end of 2022, we took receipt of the 30% design of the Ohio River Tunnel, completed a robust value engineering session, and moved straight into 60% design while revising and incorporating the careful comments that were part of the value engineering. We'll plan on getting that the 3rd quarter of next year, moving straight into 90. Most importantly, at the bottom there, we're planning on bidding the Ohio River Tunnel in 3rd quarter of 2024. And we have to start construction at the very beginning of 2025. Big picture, you can see that the wet weather pump station that Jeff talked about and the Ohio River Tunnel are really, they're tied together. One cannot really exist without the other. The flows need to go somewhere, and they're going to be discharged into the wet weather pump station so that they can be pumped up into the treatment plant for processing. In 2024, we're going to start design of both the Allegheny River and the Monongahela River tunnel segments. I think, as everybody knows, with the supply chain and everything being slower, we want to give ourselves a little bit more time during the design phases of both of those tunnel segments to be able to meet our requirements of the consent decree during the construction phase. And it just seems prudent to move those up a little bit. And what is important is that we are continuously improving and we are continuously learning. We're talking to Julia and Tim and Jeff, and we are incorporating adaptive management where it's appropriate into our plan and updating it. And we will continue to update it as we move forward with the best engineering practices. I really encourage you to follow us on all of the social media platforms and our website. We try to put as much information out there as possible. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. And with that, that concludes our presentation portion of tonight's public meeting, annual public meeting. And we would love to start a Q&A session. But before we do, we did have 2 questions that have already been emailed in that I would like to address. And one is talking about the quality of the water at the Allegheny River, on the Allegheny River. So she says, as a boater docked on the Allegheny, I and other boaters were delighted at the Allegheny River quality, particularly in its clarity and abundance of minnow fish. Can the quality be specifically related to ALCOSAN efforts? And I would love to take full credit for that, but I will say that there are many entities working together to improve water quality in this region. And we are one of them, but there are a lot of organizations and authorities with the shared mission of improving our water quality. And I thank you for that comment. And then the other question is about above ground infrastructure versus below ground infrastructure. And I do want to reiterate, there is no wastewater treatment being proposed anywhere other than this treatment plant in our existing campus. So there will be near surface facilities that will be disruptive during the construction phase. After that, once we're through construction, it'll operate like the sewer system does now, out of sight, out of mind, get it down here to the treatment plant where it can be processed and treated in one place. So I hope that answers those questions. And we will see if anybody else has any questions in the chat.
No question.
Okay.
And not on the webinar.
Okay. Somebody must have a question. Okay. What does it mean that the design is 60% complete? Thank you. So that just is that's sort of how we progress the design so that we get a chance to review it, comment on it, incorporate our comments into it. So any of our final design contracts, even with the plant expansion, really anything, it has 30, 60, 90, and final design submittals. That's what's built into the scope of work. So that just means that we've progressed beyond 30 and we're, locking down the alignment and advancing the design. Not quite yet to final, but above 50%. Somebody's raised their hand. So whoever raised their hand, I think you have to type your question into the chat. I don't think we have the capability of taking you off mute. So if you would type it in, we'd be able to answer it. Okay. How many years? Wait, okay, I'll go with number one. What would the entry points for the tunnel design look like in the area where they will be? Elizabeth, if you can clarify if you mean during construction or after construction, but I will say that the during construction, or like the slide that I showed with the photographs of the regulator and consolidation sewer and the drop shaft, but after construction, it would look like a manhole cover or a hatch, because after each wet weather event, our crews, our regional conveyance crews, have to go out and observe that there's nothing blocking the screens. There's no debris in there, and that regulator is ready for the next storm event. So you wouldn't see anything at the grade, but that we do have to have access to be able to observe it and make sure that it's clear for the next event. During construction, of course, you said during construction, and I answered after construction. So during construction, it would be, the drop shafts are 150 feet deep. It's deep construction. So we will make sure that it's a secured, fenced-in environment that protects the public in the area. But in those 7 facilities and the access shaft, it's pretty intense infrastructure construction, for that period of time. And then afterwards, it'll be buttoned up, and we need very little in terms of a permanent easement to make sure that we can go in and check everything out after each event. So next, how many years into the future does the expanded water treatment plant provide for? So our plan is based on a typical year. So that is what the design has been based on. And our success is actually going to be judged on the improvement to water quality. So we have a plan put forth that every time we make a milestone and say we get to the 480 million gallons per year, or we turn on the Ohio River Tunnel, which will be on, and the pump station, which will be online for years prior to the Allegheny and the Mon, we will be doing water quality monitoring to validate and verify to the agencies that the plan is working, that we're taking those CSOs out of the rivers and streams, and that because of that, the water quality is improving. So how many years into the future? It is based on the overflows and the conveyance capacity for a typical year. Okay, so how many people will it take to build the tunnels and drop shafts, and how long will those jobs last? So each of those jobs would last, the construction is about 4 years. I mean, they're long construction jobs or projects. And that's 4 years for the Ohio, 4 years for the Allegheny, 4 years for the Mon. I am not able to comment on the amount of jobs off the top of my head, but we do have that information, and we have partnered with the Allegheny Conference to run those numbers, and we'll continue to post that information and share it with the public as we get closer to putting these contracts out to bid. Okay, yeah. So you mentioned bids for the Ohio River Tunnel will be advertised in 2024. Have the professional services agreements already been advertised, specifically those related to CM or materials testing? So for the Ohio River Tunnel, we do have our final design consultant on board and our construction manager. We like to bring the construction manager on early so that they can perform constructability and biddability reviews from that point of view during the design phase. But there will be separate professional services opportunities for the Monongahela River Tunnel design, the Allegheny River Tunnel design, and then the construction management for each of those tunnel segments. Materials testing typically falls under the CM during construction. Okay. I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again for listening tonight and hearing our presentation on our updates for the Clean Water Plan. We shared a lot of information here, and it was in a short period of time. So please know that this presentation will be posted on our website. And also you can Google on YouTube and under ALCOSAN 2023 public meeting, annual public meeting, and you will find our presentation on YouTube as well. So when you go, if you need to relook at some things, relook at them. And then if you have questions that come up, please email us. Our email address is alcosan@publicrelations.com. Again, that's alcosan@publicrelations.com. I'm sorry. It's publicrelations@alcosan.com. .org. Okay. Say it again, Derek.
Public.relations@alcosan.org.
Okay, public.relations@alcosan.org. All right. We got that. Better yet, if you go to our website, that information is on our website, also under public relations. So please, you will find a way to get a question to us. We will find a way to get an answer back to you. The presentation is online, and we will, again, you could fast forward to the parts that you need more attention to and navigate the system to get our questions to us. Again, on behalf of the board of directors here at ALCOSAN, our executive director, Arletta Scott William, and all the employees at ALCOSAN, we thank you for your time and attention tonight. Thank you.